this week onwards, we were discussing about the inferential statistics, which we used to draw conclusions from a data. So that yesterday we had an introduction session regarding the same, and we came to know the basic concepts of basic concepts we are using in inferential statistics, such as a hypothesis, what is a null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis, and what are the types of errors we are considering in testing of hypothesis, which we called as type 1 and type 2 errors, and what is a confidence interval, and what is a significance level, and what is degrees of freedom, what is standard error, such kind of all basic concepts we discussed yesterday. And today we are going to learn about the statistical tests we are using. What are the statistical tests we are using to test the hypothesis? So hypothesis means a wild guess or a prediction made by the researcher, and through testing of hypothesis, the researcher is testing like whether his prediction is true or false, or true or not. So for that purpose, we are using various statistical tests. And what are the assumptions for applying a statistical test that we are discussing today? So I will share my screen now. Okay. So testing of hypothesis, and what are the what is parametric and non-parametric tests. So today we are discussing about the assumptions of parametric and non-parametric tests. And related to that, we need to discuss about the normality of a data. What are the assumptions of normality, and what are the types of statistical tests? And we are discussing about one type of parametric test, which is called a t-test also. And we have some practical sessions of t-test in SPSS. So this is we already discussed yesterday, and this is just to recall the terms for what are the steps involved in testing of hypothesis. So we have the researcher have a hypothesis to prove, and how do we do the analysis, or how do we set the statistical analysis to prove the hypothesis? For that, the first step is to state the null and alternative hypothesis. What is null hypothesis and what is alternative hypothesis? Null hypothesis means it's a negative statement or neutral statement against the researcher statement. Suppose if researcher wants to prove that there is a difference between two variables, or there is a relation exists between two variables, then that is his prediction, and the doubt against the null that researcher hypothesis will be the null hypothesis. Like if the researcher says there is a relationship between these two variables, or there is a difference between these two variables, the null hypothesis is a negative statement or neutral statement against his statement, which is called as there is no relationship between those two variables, or there is no difference between those two variables. That is called the null hypothesis. And we are testing the doubt which arises against the statement of the researcher, which is called the null hypothesis, and the researcher need to prove that negative statement or doubt against his statement is false, and what he says is right, that he want to prove. So we are testing that doubt against the researcher's hypothesis, which is called as null hypothesis. So we are testing the null hypothesis, and finally the researcher wants to reject the hypothesis with the help of his data. With the evidence, statistically he need to reject the null hypothesis, and he need to prove that his hypothesis is correct. So for that purpose, we are doing the testing of hypothesis. And next, we have to fix the level of significance. So how much confident the researcher will be with his results. If we can probably put 3 levels of significance, like he may be confident, 99% confident, or 95% confident, or 99% confident. After the rest of the percent, like if he is 95% confident, the rest of the 5% may be the chance of chance of error, like that predictions made by the researcher may vary for 5%, and it will accurate for 95%. That is what the 95% significance confidence interval means. The rest of the 5% or 10% or 1% level shows the chance of variability. At that level of variability can accept for the prediction, and statistically we can prove that within, if he says 95% his findings will be true, up to 5% error can allow his predictions. So we should fix the level of significance before doing the testing of hypothesis. So usually we fix 95% confidence interval, and if the researcher is more confident with his results and what all things he had to prove his hypothesis, like if he have enough sample size, and if he is using precise methods and all, he can go up to 99%. And if he didn't get the appropriate sample size, and he didn't approach, maybe he planned for a probability sampling technique, and unfortunately he went for a non with a non-probability sampling technique. It's like that, if the unfavorable things happens to the researcher, then he may reduce his confidence interval as 90% and all. So usually we fix 95% confidence interval and 5% level of significance for the analysis. And the next step is we need to find the appropriate statistical test we should choose for the testing of hypothesis. So which statistical test is appropriate to prove the said objectives in the thesis or in the study. So the third step is to fix the exact test statistic to prove the data. And then we want that calculated value. When we applied the statistical test, we will get a result that is called the critical value, and we have a table value also, and we need to compare the table value and the calculated value. And if the calculated value is greater than the table value, we can take the decision as we can reject the null hypothesis, and we can and then draw the inference or do the interpretations of the results. So these are the steps involved in testing of hypothesis. Like in null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, we want to state first, then we need to fix the level of significance, then we have to choose the test statistic, and we need to find the table value, and we need to take the comparison and take the decision, and to do the interpretation. These are the steps involved in testing of hypothesis. Commonly, there are two types of statistical tests, that are parametric tests and non-parametric tests. We'll see what are the that assumptions we should follow to take a parametric, whether we need to go with the parametric or non-parametric tests. How do we find which test is more appropriate is, these are the assumptions we should check. First one is normality. Normality means the variability of the data, whether the data if the data has more if the data is variability of the data is more, then the data is not normally distributed, and the variability between the responses or data is less, the data will be a normal data. So that we'll see in detail on next slides. And first one is normality. If our data is normal, we can choose a parametric test, and if the data is non-normal, we should go with the non-parametric test. This is the main thing we will consider while selecting a statistical test. And homogeneity of variances also. If we want to compare two data groups, the variance of both groups, I mean, if we are taking different sample groups from a population, the variance between the sample means will be the same. So homogeneity of variances, data from multiple groups have the same variance, then only we can go with a parametric test. And linearity, data should have a linear relationship, and it should the data will collected independently from the population. These all are the assumptions we consider to select a parametric test: normality, homogeneity, linearity, and independence. And this is next is normality. While we learned about that probability distribution, we saw this normal probability distribution where we use it for continuous variables. For continuous or by scale of, in the sense of scale of measurements, if it is an interval scale or ratio scale, we need to check the normality of the data. For a if our data we are using to test the hypothesis is continuous or quantitative, we need to check the normality of the data. So it is the most useful theoretical distribution of continuous variables. The normal distribution of a variable is usually represented by a graph which appears as a symmetrical bell-shaped curve called normal probability curve. We can call it as Gaussian curve also. Actually, this is the curve. Like if we draw the actual data or continuous data in a graph, that mean value will come on the center side, and that mean will be in the center, and all other observations will fall symmetrically on both sides. Gradually they are falling into the both sides, and it's not touching on the baseline. And the assumptions or the properties of a normal data curve is that mean and mean median mode, both three center tendency measures will be equal in a normal data. If the variability is less or there is no variability within the variables, then the center tendency measures will be equal, like mean equal to median equal to mode. Then from the central value, 68.2% of the observations will lie within 1 plus or minus 1 SD, within 1 standard deviation. Suppose if we are considering the height of a group of population, suppose the mean height is 100. Suppose the population size is 100, the mean height is, suppose if it is 160, that 68% of the population will have the height as either 159 or 161. So they may between 159 to 161. That is, suppose if the standard deviation is 1 and the mean is 160. If we have 100 individuals in a population, if the data is normal, that 68% of the population have the height had 159 to 161, 159, 160 and 161, and 95% of the population will be within the height 158 to 162, 158, 159, 160, 161 and 162, like that. So, and 99.7% of the population will lie within 3 standard deviation from the mean. So, if the population, if our data had this satisfies these properties, we can say that the variability is less than our data is normally distributed. Actually, I explained this for this to get an idea about the normal probability, that average or center tendency measures are will be equal and it will be in the center, and all observations are majority of the observations will be lying nearby the central value, and this, if we ask, that curve shows a symmetrical bell-shaped curve, then we can say that it's a normally distributed curve. So how do we analyze this normality of a data? For that, we have different methods. And this, if suppose this is the normal data, what all abnormalities are possible for a continuous data? While we drawing a graph of the continuous variable, what are the abnormalities possible in this data? So Suppose there are two types of abnormalities are possible. One is skewness and other one is kurtosis. So what is skewness? Skewness means absence of symmetry. From this image, we can see that here the central value is mean equal to median equal to mode. But here, which is negatively skewed, majority of the data were in this side. This side shows more data and the maximum ordinate is here. So mode is here and the central value is here and mean will be in this area's maximum. Variables are on this area. So this is called negatively skewed distribution. This is an absence of symmetry also, and here it is positively skewed. So this is a kind of asymmetric and possible abnormality which is possible. And another one is peakedness of the distribution. Here it is very thin and had much height. This is called leptokurtic. And if it is normal, we can call it as another name which is mesokurtic. And if it is close to the baseline, then it is called platykurtic. So these are the two types of abnormalities possible in a distribution of continuous data. And for our data analysis, so why we are learning statistics is to analyze our data for the research purpose. Okay, so how do we assess the normality of our data? So while we do the testing of hypothesis analysis, we should check the normality of our data first. Then only we finalize the type of the test we have to use for the analysis. So based on the normality only we are deciding whether parametric test or non-parametric test we are using for the analysis. So how do we assess the normality of a data? For that we have two tests which is called Shapiro-Wilk test and Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. Both we can do in SPSS. So it is very simple to do in SPSS, and I will show that in the later session. For in that practical sessions, we will see that. So where we do Shapiro and Kolmogorov is very important. And if we have the sample size less than 30, or if we have a small sample, and while after doing the test, if our p-value is greater than 0.05, all these results we can see in the output window of the SPSS. And if our significance says if it is greater than 0.05, we can assume that our data is normal. And for Kolmogorov-Smirnov, we use Kolmogorov-Smirnov for a large sample data. Like if sample size is more than 30, we can use Kolmogorov-Smirnov test for testing the normality. And how do we determine or decide whether the data is normal or not? If the significance is greater than 0.05, the data is normal. So Shapiro-Wilk test and Kolmogorov-Smirnov test are two statistical tests we are using to find the testing normality of a data. So Shapiro-Wilk test will use for small sample which is less than 30, and Kolmogorov will be used for the large sample which is greater than 30. And another method is histogram. Histogram is a statistical graphical method which we used for continuous data, like 10 to 15. We have class intervals like 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, like that. Then we are using the graphical method histogram. There will be no gap between the bars as it is a continuous data. And if we draw a curve through the midlines of the bars, if it shows an approximately a bell-shaped curve, we can assume that our data is normal. For if we are doing this analysis normality, if we do the normality manually, we can take the help of histogram to assume the normality. So if the midpoints of the bar shows approximately symmetrical curve, a symmetrical bell-shaped curve is possible, then we can assume that our data is normally distributed. And the last and the easiest method to find the normality of a test is with the help of mean and standard deviation. We can find the normality. Like we need to calculate the mean and standard deviation of the continuous variable. And listen carefully. If the standard deviation is less than half of the mean, suppose if the mean is 3 and standard deviation is 1, here the standard deviation 1 is less than half of the mean. Half of the mean means what is the half of 3? Which is 1.5. Here half of the mean is 1.5 and SD is 1. Here 1 is less than 1.5, so we can assume that the data is normal. Suppose the standard deviation is 2 and mean is 3. The half of the mean 1.5 is less than the standard deviation. So we can't assume that the data is normal. So SD should be, standard deviation should be less than half of the mean, then the variability also will be less, and we can assume that our data follows a normal distribution. So these are the methods we are using to assess the normality of a data. Now, after analyzing the normality of the data, we should choose either parametric test or non-parametric tests for the analysis. It purely depends on the purpose of the, or it purely depends on the objective. So, where we use parametric test. So these are the most commonly used type of statistical analysis. This analysis referred to as parametric statistical analysis because the findings are inferred to the parameters of normally distributed populations. Or we are using parametric tests for quantitative variables which are normally distributed. As the parametric tests are using for a normal data, obviously we can assume that it is using only for continuous data or quantitative data. So if our data follows normal, for the comparison of continuous variables, we can use parametric tests. And if our data is qualitative or categorical, or if our data doesn't follow normality, then we can use the non-parametric tests for the statistical analysis. And for each parametric test, we have corresponding non-parametric tests that we will see later. And non-parametric statistical analysis are called as distribution free techniques. Like for a continuous data, we need to using parametric test, we need to find whether the data follows normally distributed or not. That we want to find out. And if it is not normally distributed, we are using this non-parametric tests. So distribution doesn't matter here. So we call it as distribution free tests, called as non-parametric tests. And most non-parametric tests are not as powerful as their parametric counterparts. Non-parametric tests are used to analyze ordinal and categorical data also. So these are some common statistical tests we are using. For choosing a statistical test, initially we need to see what type of data we need to analyze. Whether it is a quantitative or continuous data, or it is a discrete data, or it is a qualitative data that we want to find out. So if we need to do analysis for a continuous data, either it will be a differences or it may be a relationship. These are the two possible situations to do analysis while we do predictions with the help of continuous variable. We may either want to prove that the difference occurred between two or more variables or two or more groups is statistically significant or not, or whether the relationship occurred between two variables is significant or not. That is in the case of continuous data. With the help of continuous data, we need to prove either the difference occurred is significant or the relation occurred is significant. These are the two situations when we use a continuous data. And for discrete data, that I once again this again about this continuous data, we have the various testers in the next slide. And while if we have a discrete data or qualitative data, these are the possible testers for the analysis, which is called chi-square test, Fisher's exact test, and MC-NEMA test. So chi-square test we are using for the comparison of percentages or proportions or frequencies of a qualitative data. And for the comparison of 2 or more groups, we can use chi-square test for the comparison. And if any of the group contains a 0 or a non-response value, then we can use Fisher's exact test, which is also a form of chi-square test. And if we are comparing a pre-test to post-test change, then we can use MC-NEMA test, that also a part of chi-square test. So for the analysis of discrete data, usually we are following these three. And for continuous data, if we want to find the difference of difference between 2 or more groups, then we have these testers. Like if we want to compare the means of 2 groups, we want to compare the mean height of 2 groups, or whether the difference occurred between BMI between 2 groups, average BMI between 2 groups, or average SBP or DBP between 2 groups. So if we want to compare the difference or averages of means of 2 groups, we can use independent t-test. But where we use independent t-test, if the data follows normality, then only we can use independent t-test. And if it doesn't follow normality, we need to use Mann-Whitney u-test instead of independent t-test. So if we want to compare the average difference occurred between averages of 2 groups, like a mean, it may be a mean age, continuous parameters we are considering in the case of, because these differences we are considering for continuous data. So what kind of differences we want to find the significance? So if it is the average difference occurred between 2 variables or between 2 groups, there we need to use independent t-test if the data follows normality. And if the data doesn't follow normal, or the data is non-normal, instead of independent t-test, we need to use Mann-Whitney u-test. And if we want to do a comparison within the data, like from pre-test to post-test, so before after trial we want to compare, then it is a pairwise data of the same individual. So we use the test paired t-test. So if the data doesn't follow normality, we are using Wilcoxon signed rank test for the comparison, or pairwise comparison. The corresponding non-parametric test is Wilcoxon signed rank test. And if we have more than 2 groups, if we want to compare more than two means, then we can use ANOVA. So the test statistic of ANOVA is called as F. So it is called as F test. So if we want to compare more than 2 groups, then it is then the statistic we use is ANOVA. And the corresponding non-parametric test for ANOVA is Kruskal-Wallis test. And if we have more than one post-op time points, if we are doing a pre-test post-test comparison, and if we have in most of the studies we may have follow-ups like after this, before the surgery, after the surgery, after 1 month, after 3 months, after 6 months, like that we may doing follow-up to the patient, and we want to know the changes in this follow-up periods. Suppose if we have a data like that, we have more than one post-op time points, and if we are assessing the continuous parameters, suppose maybe it may be a weight loss or weight gain, maybe, or it may be a change in their BMI or in their BP status or not. If we want to find the changes occurred in different post-op time points, we can use the method repeated measures ANOVA for the comparison. And if the data doesn't follow normality, use Friedman test instead of repeated measures ANOVA. So usually we are using these tests, and for the comparison of differences, we are comparing two groups. Two means we can use independent t-test for the normal data and Mann-Whitney u-test for the non-normal data. And if we are doing a before after trial, paired t-test will be using for normal, and Wilcoxon sign rank test will be for non-normal data. And if we have more than two groups, then we use ANOVA for the comparison of means and Kruskal values for the non-normal data. And if we have more than one post-op points, time points, we use repeated measures ANOVA for normal and Friedman for non-normal data. So these are the statistical tests we are using for the analysis of differences. And if we are finding out the relationship between two variables, the significance of relation between variables, we have two options, which are correlation analysis and regression analysis. So what is correlation? These may be familiar to many of you. And correlation means the degree of relationship existing between two variables. How the change in one variable may affect the other variable. So whether it if one way, suppose if one variable increase, other variable also increase, we call it as a positive correlation.
Rosalie, can I ask a question, please?
Sorry?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, please tell me, ask me.
Yeah. Actually, this is regarding the tests which we have to use. Suppose I'm giving you an example, a situation. I would like you to guide me as to what tests would be done in this particular situation.
Okay.
I am a pathologist, and we have collections of different systems in our department, like from thyroid, breast, etc., etc.
Okay.
Suppose there is a study going on where I have to compare different samples of different organ system which were received in suppose 2018 versus 2020.
Okay.
So how would I be able to compare that?
So we are comparing two time points.
Yeah, we are comparing two time points.
Okay.
And in each time points there are different organ systems, and
Okay.
we need to compare that how much difference is there in the sample collection rates in those systems in 2 point of time.
Okay. Actually, what are the variables, type of variables you are comparing in different system?
Those variables will be frequencies in number. Suppose 200 samples of thyroid in 2018 and maybe 300 samples of thyroid in 2020. Like
so
that.
you may can use that MC-NEMA test for the comparison of frequencies between two time points. MC-NEMA test, before after test, because it may not be, as the frequencies, no, it may not be a continuous data or interval or ratio data. It will be a frequencies, no? So it is better to use a non-parametric test like before after trials we are using MC-NEMA test. So that will be more useful for such kind of analysis.
And if we have to find out the difference in two time frame for ordinal or nominal data only. Actually, I am a pathologist.
Okay.
And most of the time, the results which we have is usually in the form of ordinal and nominal data.
For such kind of data, usually we go for non-parametric tests only. And for nominal and ordinal data, usually that the nature of the data depends on the nature of the data. We use different forms of chi-square tests only.
Okay, so for one more example, please, just to clarify myself. Suppose we want to see the effect of chemotherapy on breast cancer, that whether the patient responded or not responded in particular age group. Suppose we are comparing less than 40 years and more than 40 years, and how they responded to the chemotherapy.
Responded or not? That is the response, no? How many are responded? How many are not responded?
Yes,
so
that response.
That also we use chi-square test for analysis for the how many in the first age group less than 40, how many are responded and how many are not responded, and more than 40, how many are responded and not responded. Whether the association observed between these two variables is statistically significant or not. For that we need to use chi-square test only.
Okay.
This other type of all variable analysis methods we are using for continuous data only. This
here what these Mann-Whitney tests, Wilcoxon sign rank tests, these are also
that all are using that all are non-parametric tests, but which we are using for continuous data.
So for ordinal and nominal
some kind of nominal ordinal data also we are using Mann-Whitney U-test and Wilcoxon sign rank test, but it is purely depends on the response. Here you want to compare the age groups and that respondents both are ordinal format, and one is a nominal response or non-response. One
so
is
it means in our like in pathology, it means chi-square test and McNemar's tests like these will be the most
Mann-Whitney U-test also we were using in some cases only. It depends on the nature of the variables. Like if in some tests like ordinal variables have more than 5 response, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and all. In such kind of cases, where maybe Mann-Whitney U-test also possible.
Okay. Thank you so much.
It depends on the nature of the data. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. So correlation analysis, if we want to find the degree of relationship between two variables, like if one variable increases, other variable also increases, we can we can say that it's a positive correlation. And if one variable increases, the corresponding other variable or increasing. If one variable increasing and the corresponding other variable decreasing, we can say that it's a negative correlation. And if the change occurred in one variable doesn't affect any kind of change in other variable, then we can say that there is no effect or there is no correlation between those two variables. So if such kind of situations, like if we want to state the degree of relationship between two variables, we can use correlation analysis. Sorry. And where we use Karl-Pearson correlation is if our data is continuous, and if it is a normal data, we can use Karl-Pearson correlation for the correlation analysis. And if our data is ordinal or if our data is not normal, then we use Spearman rank correlation for the correlation analysis. Next is regression analysis. These all terminologies we will study independently in the next sessions. And so don't worry if you didn't get much idea about these assumptions. So what is regression analysis is if we want to find the nature of data, if we want to make some predictions, like if we have SBP and DBP of 10 patients, already we have SBP and DBP of 10 patients, and suppose if another next person, like 11th individual came and we got his SBP and we didn't assess his DBP, then with the help of regression, we can predict his DBP according to the already collected data of 10 patients. We are finding the nature of distribution, and if suppose what is the SBP, if we are getting the information of one variable with the nature of the data distributed earlier, we can predict the value of the other variable. So if we get only one variable, like if we get the details of SBP, we can predict the value of DBP with the help of regression. Such kind of prediction we can use the analysis regression, called regression, and we can say that it is the nature of relationship between two variables. So for the degree of relationship between two variables, we are using correlation, and for the nature of relationship between two variables, we can use regression analysis. And these are the common tests we are using in statistical tests, testing of hypothesis. And while we do the process of how do we do the statistical analysis, which this we discussed in the initial slides also. And how do we do the process is, first we have to state the null hypothesis, then fix up the significance level, then choose the test statistic and calculate the test statistic and find the table value, then compare the calculated value and the table value. And if the calculated value is greater than the table value, we should reject the null hypothesis. This is how we do a testing of hypothesis. if we are doing this in a manually, we should clearly state the steps, and while we do the analysis for a thesis or for an article, the steps are not necessary to state in this order. Actually, we are stating in a, we are preparing the tables and interpreting the results, like that we are doing in a research paper or thesis paper. But if we are doing it manually, we clearly follow these steps to present the results. And next is the first one. This one, first we are discussing about the independent t-test. What are the type of t-test we are using in statistical tests? That is that test we are discussing today. So t-test is the simple small sample test for equality of sample means, but we can use even in larger sample size also, because before we were using the term Z for the large sample data. Like if sample size is more than 30, we were using the test Z, and for small data, small sample data, like if sample size less than 30, we were using is a t-test. But later that concept of Z changed, and now we are following this concept of T only. So for both large data, large sample data and small sample data, we are using t-test. T-test we are using for the comparison of a population mean to a sample mean, or the comparison of two sample means we are using, or population means we are using t-test. Up to two groups we can compare with the help of t-test. But the data should be quantitative in nature, and the data should follow normality. That is very important if we do analysis with the help of t-test, with the t-test. So it is invented by W.S. Gosset and published with a pen name Student, and thus it is called as student t-test as well. So data must be quantitative. The samples must be drawn independently from the same population. The original data from which the sample is drawn must follow normal. So these are the two types of t-test we are commonly using, which is called independent sample t-test and paired t-test. So where we use independent sample t-test is if we have two means of two groups and we need to compare the observed difference occurred between two groups are statistically significant, or whether it is happened by chance or with we have enough evidence to prove the observed difference between these two. That is called independent. There we use independent t-test. The observed difference occurred between two means were statistically significant or not. For that purpose, we are using independent sample t-test. We have some problems to show the use of independent t-test. And where we use paired t-test is, as I mentioned earlier, if we are comparing a pre-test, post-test, or before-after trial of a continuous data, then we can use paired t-test. So pairwise comparison, we are using paired t-test. So these are all we discussed already, and these are some equations. As you are not actually our target audience is not focused for the university examination, and also you no need to bother about the equations and all. But I'm just showing the type of equations. Like for a independent sample t-test, if we have the two groups with unequal sample size, this is the formula we are using. And for equal sample size, we are using the formula, this one. And for paired t-test also, we are taking the difference of pre-test to post-test to pre-test. And this is the formula for calculating paired t-test. So I'm not spending much time to teach the equation and all, as we are not using this in a manual way. We are taking the help of SPSS to do the analysis. So we'll go to SPSS. This is the T-table. For each statistical testers, we have the test table value or table for each testers, like chi-square table. Testers have chi-square tables. T-test have this T-table. ANOVA have the F-table, like that. So after calculating the value with the help of statistical statistical tests, we are comparing that calculated value with this table value. How do we find the table value is, suppose if we are doing a study with a 95% confidence interval, and suppose if our sample group contains 30 samples, how do we find the table value is? We need to take the degrees of freedom first, which is the degrees of freedom is n minus 1, which I already discussed in my first classes, like total number of samples minus 1 is the degrees of freedom. If the sample is 30, the degrees of freedom will be 29. So in this table, we see this row, like this is the degrees of freedom. Here it is mentioned DF. DF. So if our sample size is 30, our degrees of freedom will be 29. So this row we should consider. And if we are doing our study in a 95% confidence interval, and our data is if we are doing a two-tailed study, like we are assuming equal chance for the outcome, like either it can be more or less. While do the analysis, we are not knowing about the direction before doing the analysis. It may be an increase or decrease, or equal or unequal. So we are not have any pre-directive idea about the outcome. Then we are doing the two-tailed analysis. It can either be positive or negative. But if we have an idea about the direction of the outcome, whether it is increasing, or we are checking about the increment or decrement, then it should be a one-tailed test. So that is the basic idea of one-tailed and two-tailed tests. So if we are doing a two-tailed test and I have the significance level 5, then I should consider this column as in this two-tailed test 0.05, 5% significance level is here. So we are in this 29th row, degrees of freedom is 29, and our significance level is 5%, then the table value of T will be 2.045. So, and if we are considering a one-tailed test, the table value will be 1.699. So this is the way we should find the table value. This method is applicable for all the statistical tables. And if you have any other questions, you can ask now. And after that we are going to the practical sessions. Actually, I think we don't have enough time to.
The two-tailed and one-tailed, that part, actually, how do you identify that from that table?
From the, not from the table, actually. Oh, that one I will show now. Just a minute. Here it is mentioned, one-tailed, two-tailed. So if we are considering a one-tailed test, we should go with this row. And if it is two-tailed, we should go in this row, like this one. It is mentioned in the right side, one-tailed and two-tailed.
Okay, but the sample size is 29, the 30, that is,
yes.
Freedom is 29.
Yes.
Okay. Then the row is only one here, no?
Yeah, only one row, because sample size won't change. Within that, our sample size,
okay.
Whether we are doing an assumption about if we have specification about our direction of the outcome. If we are testing whether it is if our objective is like we want to find out the increment of a variable, drug or effectiveness or something, we want to.
Then for both the values are same, no? 1.699.
Sir, if we have one-tailed test, the value is 1.699, and if we are going to with a two-tailed test, the value is 2.045. Both values are different. This one, because that in that two-tailed test, the degrees of freedom is significance level 0.05 is here, and for one-tailed test, it is here.
Okay.
Okay. And here we are going for analysis. Here, how do we open the data? How do we open an Excel data? This is the home page of a Spaces software. So how do we do? And this is a data to compare the effectiveness of two drugs. We have two groups, which is group 1 and group 2. Each group has 30 samples each. And here we are comparing the lipid profile of both the groups, and we want to find out which group has more effective effect in that treatment. So group 1 received one kind of treatment, and group 2 received another treatment, and we want to find out which treatment is more effective. So to improve the lipid profile, that is what we want to find. So here we have the data, the variables such as age, gender, triglycerides, VLDL, LDL, and cholesterol. These are the variables we have here. And in that first column, we can see it's first up to 30 group 1 and last 30 is group 2. And we have all the responses of all parameters in both the groups. And so while we open the data, we need to check the type of variables. When we open the data, this scale of measurements came as normal for all. But we will start from here. The type of variables, all are in a numerical format. So here gender also we called recorded as 1 and 2. So here all data are numerical type, and they do not specify any decimal points here. Actually, it has some decimal points like a TG, TLDL and all. We need to give some 2.2 decimal points here. Actually, I am not spending much time in this data, this kind of things, because these all initial thing we are discussed earlier. So directly I am going to the analysis. So this is our data, and if we, how do we do the analysis? How do we do a paired t-test, or how we do a independent t-test in this data? So initially we should know that what the purpose. We need to find the changes observed in a pre-test to post-test. What are the variables we considered here is triglycerides, VLDL, LDL, and cholesterol. So for both, all those variables have two values. TGL1 means pre-test value, TGL2 means post-test value. Like that, we have pre-test, post-test values of all those four variables. And to find the effect of each treatment, we need to do a pre-test, post-test analysis. Then only we can find that there is any significant changes occurred from the pre-test to post-test. So for that purpose, which test we will use? For the pre-test, post-test analysis, usually we should go with a paired t-test. And we want to know which treatment is more better. So for that, we need to do a comparison between these group 1 and group 2. For that, we can use a independent t-test. But before applying, before we deciding the type of test, we need to check the normality of the data also. For how do we do the normality test is, we can go to analyze, then descriptive statistics. Here we have an option explore. So here we need to take the values. 1 second. We need to change the type of variable here, which is scale. Here it came as nominal, and we need to change the type of scale because we use it in a interval or ratio scale. Then from the response, we can observe that TG, LDL, VLDL all are either a continuous data, no? So we need to change the measurement scale as scale, and then we need to select the table variables for the normality test, age, then TGL1 up to cholesterol L2. We are selecting all these variables, and here we have a option plots. Here we should take this option normality plots with the testers and put continue, put OK. Then from the output window, we will get the results of normality. Can you see this output window?
No.
No.
No. It is coming as a black background only.
Now it came now.
No, we can't see it. Now it is there.
Check again. Oh, okay. Yeah. So in this sidebar, we can see that one option, testers of normality. So while doing the normality testers, we will get much graphs, plots, and all types of normality plots, methods of finding the data's normality will be available here. And we need to check whether it is parametric, whether according to the size of the data, we are checking the outcome of Wilcoxon and Shapiro-Wilk and Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. So for that, we can choose this test of normality option here. One option is there, test of normality. Then we can directly go to this table. This table contains the results of Kolmogorov-Smirnov and Shapiro-Wilk test. Okay. So actually, while we do analysis here, we had taken all the 60 samples, but actually we have two groups, like group 1 and group 2. So we can't, if we are considering like this, we will get the overall normality. So from here, we can see that as the sample size is 60, we can take the results of Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. And here only the age variable shows normality, as the significance is 0.200, because which is greater than 0.05. Only age follows normality, and all other variable significance is 0.000, which means the data is not normal. And as I mentioned, we have two groups. So what we do is, we need to split the data. So this is the data. Here we can do analysis of both the groups separately. How it is, like we have an option data here. Here, after in that initial tab, there is an option data. In that, we can split the file. So how, what manner we are splitting the file? According to group, we want to compare the entire data. So based on group, we are doing the analysis. So we choose group. And now if we do the analysis of normality, that results will come separately for both groups. Please wait a moment. So here Now the data, the results came was for group 1 and group 2 separately. While we did the data splitting, here in the group 1, what all variables shows normality? Can anyone say?
Yes, it is TGL1, then
Yes.
VLDL1,
Yes.
then LDL2.
Okay.
These have a normal data, rest of them and age.
Yes.
Apart from that, all have are non-normal.
So here the sample size is 30 for both groups. So which test we will use? Either Kolmogorov or Shapiroval test.
We'll use Kolmogorov.
As a sample size up to 30, we need to use a Shapiroval test. And if the sample size is more than 30, we should use Kolmogorov. So here we can use Shapiroval test. In that initial data, we considered 60 samples, so we use Kolmogorov Smirnov. Here we have to use choose Shapiroval test. So that normal data will be age, TGL1, VLDL1. Also the group age also in the second group only the variable age shows normal distribution. So based on this only we are doing the independent t-test or t-test analysis. So here which all data we need to use for the analysis? For the comparison of means, which data we need to use? So for age and what are the variables we need? We got normally
TGL1,
VLDL1, also LDL2. For all those variables, we can use independent t-test for the comparison. So how we do the analysis is we need to go to analyze, compare means. Here it is independent sample t-test and age, TGL1, VLDL1, LDL2. These are the variables we got as normal, and the group we need to specify, define the group. Group 1 we coded as 1 and group 2 we coded as 2. Then put OK. Okay, here what happened is we did the data splitting. So we cannot be run the independent t-test. Now it's possible. I turn off the data splitting and now we will get the results. So these are the outcome of a independent t-test. How we do it, how we take the results is, this is the outcome of independent t-test. We had compared the age, TGL1, VLDL1 and LDL2. And this is the descriptive part of the data. Like for each parameter, we got the mean and standard deviation of both groups, group 1 and group 2. And from where we take the statistical decision is, we need to see this table for that independent sample t-test. And here we have two options like equal variances assumed and equal variances not assumed. And we have two values for both the t-test and significance. So which we will take? Like for that, we need to see this table, these columns. If the data is significant, if the levels F ratio is here, it is significance. How can we find assume that whether it is significant or not? If the p significant value is less than 0.05, it will be significant, and if it is more than 0.05, it is not significant. If it is here, it is significant, then we can take equal variance not assumed, and if it is not significant, we assume that we need to take the t value here, equal variance assumed. So I will tell again, like if, while taking in the final outcome of t-test, we need to refer this table. So here we have Leven's test for equality of variances. While discussing about the assumptions of t-test, we already discussed that homogeneity, where homogeneity of variances should be there. So if the variances, homogeneity assumptions are interpreting here, if we see that the significant, it is not significant here, we should take the results of equal variances assumed. And if it is significant, then we should take the results of equal variance not assumed. So here age from the variable age, it is not significant. So we can take the t value as 4.987 and significance is 0.00. And for TGL1, it is significant. So we can take equal variances not assumed, and we need to take the t value as 13.450. It's almost same for all. And but while in some cases it may be different, and we should consider this results in that manner. We should take in that manner. If there is significance, we should take equal variance assumed, and if it is not significant, we should take equal variances not assumed. Like that, we can take the t, both the test statistical value is t and the p value is this one, significance. This is how we do the analysis of t-test. As the time is already over, shall we start here?
For the column or for the values which had which didn't had a normal data.
Yeah, for that we need to use that non-parametric testers. For that, that we can do here itself. Actually, I thought of continuing it in tomorrow. That's why I didn't mention that paired t-test also we need to do. Actually, for non-parametric data, here also in this analysis, here we have an option non-parametric testers. Here we have legacy dialogues. We are comparing two groups here, group 1 and group 2. So we are choosing these two independent samples. And here also we need to specify the group. Group 1 we coded as 1. Group 2 we coded as 2. And Mann-Whitney U-test already taken here. And TGL2, VLDL2, LDL1, and cholesterol 1 and cholesterol 2. These are the variable we found as not normal. And here we can give the options for descriptives. Continue. Mann-Whitney U-test we had taken here. Then if we run the analysis, we will get the outcome. This is the outcome of in the non-parametric testers. Here we can take either Mann-Whitney U value or Z value as test statistic, and this is asymptotic significance. This is the p value. Here TGL2 shows non-significance, and all other parameters shows significance. Like p value is 0.00 here, which shows significance, and here it is 0.056, which is not significant. So we can say that TGL2 is not significantly differ between the study groups.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, I know that this is not enough. Many of you may get much confused. Actually, for tomorrow's session, we will start from here only. Like from t-test only, we will start these sessions again. Once again, then only we will discuss about the chi-square test and all. So once.
And I have one more request.
Yeah.
Please include the examples for people like us also, which most of the time deals with the nominal and ordinal data. Because in our research, we usually deal with nominal and ordinal data only.
Yeah, okay. While coming to the chi-square test onwards, that next session onwards, it's there. Actually, we have examples of other type of data also. For t-test and all, this kind of data will be more easy to learn.
Yes,
That's why we are taking this continuous data.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. We will wind up today's session.
Yeah.